It is unclear how long Democrats will maintain their untenable posture, making the duration of the shutdown difficult to predict.
Enough is enough. Democrats need to stop sabotaging our country and holding the American people hostage in the country. Democrats need to do their jobs.
Poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop. And I talked to the President of the United States about that.
The shutdown is here, and $8 billion already canceled and counting. We've got reports that firings are going to be coming in the next 48 hours or so, but the big one dropped immediately. October 1st, day one of the shutdown, 11:09 a.m. Boom. Russ Vought coming out swinging. Nearly $8 billion in Green New Scam funding to fuel the left's climate agenda is being canceled. More info to come from the Energy Department, which we can't wait to see. The projects are in the following states: California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, sex freak Hirono's down there upset about this, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. It's like all the blue states, because that's how the scam works, of course. You come in, you take control of the federal government, you're like, man, I got to dish out a bunch of money to these sanctuary cities, and how can we just give them billions of dollars, $8 billion, just spread it around? Oh yeah, we'll just call it climate change and green new energy, and we'll just pay a bunch of people and call those jobs. And it's just people digging holes and moving dirt around. Dig one hole, take the dirt, fill another hole, then dig that hole out, take the dirt, fill it back over here. We talked about that before in economics. So you see that the money is now being canceled and rescinded, and Russ Vought is going to be causing just a bunch of Democrats screeching into the skies. And he's doing some reposts. He's sharing, by the way, yeah, the Democrats definitely were trying to bring back money for the illegal aliens. And he's also sharing some other clips from some other people. But there was more. New York also getting paused. So we had $8 billion canceled. Now there's another $18 billion. Can you get how much money this is? Just throwing around like it ain't nothing, like tip money at the end of a bad meal. Roughly $18 billion in New York City infrastructure projects have been put on hold. Schumer not happy about that one. To ensure funding is not flowing based on unconstitutional DEI principles, which are illegal. More info to come from the Department of Treasury. And so we see what is happening right now. Like the requests are coming in. He's like, well, approved over to Treasury. Oop, approved over to Energy. And we're happy to see the flywheel kick into gear. Now, they're also explaining to us over at Politico, writing, mass firings will begin in a day or two. And here's another one from Meredith Lee Hill, who was very upset about the sombrero, I think it was, and said she was calling it vulgar and very offended as a white lady. Says OMB Chief Russ Vought told House Republicans today on a private call on Wednesday that the administration will start mass reduction in force and those moves or the firings of federal workers, quote, in a day or two. Keep it vague. According to 4 people granted anonymity to describe the call, Vought and President Trump have both threatened to inflict maximum pain, and now they're getting sued over that because of Norm Eisen and the Democrat super lawyers during the shutdown, as Senate Republicans hope to peel off additional Democrats. And that did not happen today. A bipartisan group of senators also discussed several early off-ramps as well. Vought warned that money is about to run out for both a nutrition program for low-income moms and babies, known as WIC, and pay for active duty members of the military. But here's just another report. California, $8.4 billion. How much of that money could be put to our troops, our border patrol? This is going to illegal aliens. The invaders of our country are better cared for with guaranteed health care than our own troops. It's insane. And both parties should honestly be ashamed of themselves for even allowing this to happen. And I know the veterans in the military are constantly used as leverage points in order to get other things done, but it's ridiculous that we even have to have that conversation. Okay, how about you care for keep your own house in order before you start slushing money out to NGOs and USAID and foreign nations? It's like you'd expect basic fundamental governance that we can't even get right in this country. It's kind of a shocking shame, actually, when you see it come out. Now, that being said, we will, of course, enjoy the opportunity to cut and cancel and rescind the funds that were a part of that scam. So maybe, hopefully, the next time we actually have some fiscal responsibility so we can pay for American citizens. Now, here's the memo from Russ Vought. He said, we're going to start cutting, baby. He sent this one yesterday as the deadline approached. He told everybody, memorandum to the heads of executive departments and agencies from Russell Vought. He says appropriations provided under the appropriations expire tonight, last night at midnight. Boom, we were watching it. On September 19th, the House of Representatives passed a CR that was clean. But unfortunately, Democrat senators are blocking this. And it's now clear that the shutdown is going to happen. And so here is what we need to do next. It is unclear how long Democrats will maintain their untenable posture, making the duration of the shutdown difficult to predict. Now, regardless, employees should report to work for their next regularly scheduled tour of duty to undertake orderly shutdown activities. We will issue another memorandum indicating that government functions should resume once the president has signed another bill providing for the appropriation. So you're kind of in a holding pattern. Show up, but you're in a holding pattern. Now, agencies should continue to closely monitor developments and will provide you further guidance as appropriate. We greatly appreciate your cooperation and the work your agencies do on behalf of the American people. So that's making its way through. This was a fun question for Hakeem, and they're struggling with this because they're recognizing, oh, damn, $8 billion just got canceled like with one fell swoop to all these blue entities. And the money is just theft. They're not creating green energy. Do we have a surplus of energy somewhere? How many billions of dollars have gone to the green scam? Are we better off for it? What if all that money went to nuclear reactors and we had a bunch of nuclear reactors all over the place and our electricity was basically free? And I'm not a communist, but if we're going to spend the money, I want it to be useful for Americans, not being grifted off by Democrats. So they go to slush funds. I would expect about $4 billion of that goes right back to Democratic political causes and has nothing to do with green energy at all. And so now that is being canceled. They're probably going, oh, dang, we need that. That's a lot of money. And so they asked Hakeem about this. And the question, I think, is much better than his response because, as we know, he can't really talk that well. But here is the question, and it's fleshing out some of the concern that is now percolating in the aftermath of the shutdown.
So Russ just spoke to House Republicans on a call, says that these firings are likely to start within the next 48 hours.
Let's go.
Also said that WIC is going to run out of money within the next week. And he just posted that $8 billion of green energy will actually be cut immediately. And it's going to affect 16 states, all of them which have either Democratic leaders or Democratic majorities in their state houses or Senate. What's your response?
These are all things that the Trump administration has been doing since January 20th.
Yeah.
The mass firings of federal workers. Yeah. Trump administration has been engaging in this since January 20th. Targeting the clean energy economy. Republicans have been doing that since January 20th and assaulted the clean energy economy and the creation of good-paying American jobs in their one big ugly bill.
Yeah, say it.
Trump administration has been killing jobs. This is a job-killing administration.
Okay, so all they want to do is just hand out money and then call that jobs. Just scam it out right to their energy people. And then, of course, those people, wow, Democrats are great for me. And they funnel it to their specific subcontractors, and it all trickles down right back into their voters' pockets, who then send it right back to the Democrats. So the scam is over, but the question was perfect because, like, oh, you guys are going to get a lot of that money cut from you. Not good for them, good for America. Now they're reacting. They're not just sitting back. We expected a lawsuit to come, and it came quickly. Norm Eisen probably had it drafted already. And this guy has been just a pain in America's butt for a long time. And we've covered a bunch of lawsuits representing his organizations, Democracy Defenders and others, suing to get nationwide injunctions. They were representing the FBI agents who were, very emotionally traumatized like babies. And here's another complaint that comes out from him. Now, the case, of course, is filed, guess where? Well, you know where it's going. The Northern District of California. You're kidding. Shopping around as per usual. And the case, of course, is going to an Obama judge. His name is Vince Gurdarhi Chabria. The unions, American Federation of Government Employees. Oh, they're back again. The civil servants who sacrifice so much for all of us, who then also have to unionize so they can collective bargain against all of us, which is strange because they're already just dripping in federal benefits, are hardly ever fired. You can't get fired. You fire somebody. They're like, it's civil war for the Democrats. And then they unionize. The unions skim off the top of the taxpayer dollars that are going to these employees, so-called, civil servants, as they like to say about themselves. Then they form a union to basically attack and now sue the federal government, which we just voted for. So they're attacking us. Thank you for your public service. So AFL-CIO, all the unions are suing. They're suing Russ Vought and the United States OMB. Here's what they say. As the nation heads towards a federal government shutdown today, in an effort to pressure members of Congress, Donald Trump is making threats to federal employees. They say existing law provides for a temporary federal government shutdown if there's no money. When shutdowns have occurred in the past and pursuant to federal law, employees have been assigned to two categories. You can be an accepted employee. You continue working, but you're not paid until appropriations are back, or you're non-accepted and you're furloughed. But despite this well-established practice that they've come to rely on, the Trump administration has made unlawful threats to dismantle essential federal services. Is he suing about the threats or the shutdown or the actual actions or just the words. They say, once again, he's deviating from historical practice. And we're like, yeah, that's the whole point. They just are very unhappy that Trump is actually using the laws appropriately. Thus, last week, OMB issued the memo saying we're going to start firing people. There's going to be mass firings. We read it, a beautiful memo. But they say this takes a legally unsupportable position that a temporary interruption allows them to, quote, use this opportunity. And this past weekend, Trump doubled down on it. But this directive is contrary to federal law, and carrying out reductions in force is plainly not a permitted function that can continue during a shutdown. And so the threat of these massive layoffs, like nobody had even been fired yet when he filed this yesterday, it was repeated and reinforced by Caroline Leavitt, says, yeah, we're going to fire people. If the government is not open, we have to make cuts. Obviously, we have no money. So these actions are contrary to law. I don't think so. And arbitrary and capricious. And it's a cynical use of the federal employees as a pawn, and it should be declared unlawful. All right, so let's see what he's asking for. He goes through, when federal agencies undertake a RIF in which federal employees are laid off, there are statutes you have to follow, right? So he's basically saying you have to apply, like you're saying you're going to do a RIF. And if you're saying you're going to do a RIF, you got to use these statutes and follow these procedures. You're not doing that. You're using shutdown procedures, but you're just calling it a RIF, and you can't do that. So it's kind of semantics, really. On September 24th, multiple news agencies said there's going to be an impending shutdown. Now we get to some, actual content, but there's no authority to fire people, and nor could they, because if it's going to be a RIF, then they have to follow the other rules. And so let's just see what he's asking for. So we'll fast forward all the way to the end here. And he's saying it's outside the law. It's excessive and it's contrary to the law. It exceeds authority. You have to issue RIF notices and all the things. Well, they got notice once they knew that the federal government was being cut or was being shut down. They file an APA claim, and let's see what they're asking for, what they want the judge to do, and whether the judge will do these things. Declare that OMB and OPM have exceeded their authority, acted contrary to law in an arbitrary and capricious manner in issuing the lapse memo. So I guess the memo needs to come back. They're not even upset about anything that's happened. They want to stay the memo so that people, I guess, can't begin identifying things that should be cut. They want an injunction that the memo stops being followed, I guess. And they want attorney's fees. All right, so this is just a garbage, lawsuit. Well done, Stacey, for wasting everybody's time on this. Maybe you should come back when somebody actually gets fired. Like, okay, now there's a real thing. We actually canceled $8 billion. Now there'll be a lawsuit about that. But right now, they're literally just suing. This is Norm Eisen, Craig Becker, all these people, Elena Goldstein, Democracy Forward, and state democracy defenders defending democracy on behalf of the unions, who are the so-called public servants who are now suing America because they're not happy. They think they should have jobs forever, and the federal bureaucracy can only get bigger. And if everything else shuts down, they're immune from it because they're better than us or something. Everybody had to lock down, for 2 weeks, really turned into like 2 months, which turned into 2 years. And they're upset that a lack of federal funding might result in them being fired. Welcome to the real world. Welcome to reality, and have a seat because it's how it is. Now, there's $8.4 billion that was reportedly going to illegal aliens in this report from the House Budget Committee. They published this back on March 26, 2025. They explain, according to the Californians themselves, the state of California, this is back in March, saying they're going to spend more than $8.4 billion on taxpayer-funded Medicaid health benefits for illegal aliens this year. And that's $5 billion more than they initially estimated. Last year, California became the first state to offer free taxpayer-funded health care through Medicaid to all illegal aliens in the state. It's insane. Maybe that money should go to the American citizens and troops, and we can just extend them or exempt them from the shutdowns. Medicaid, that's our money. Last year, California did this. The expansion is proving far costlier than originally projected because, of course, it's free healthcare for illegals. At a recent California assembly, California state budget officials revealed how much the state is actually spending. And you can watch it. The bottom line, it's one of 8 states that has expanded their programs to include illegal aliens. While federal law currently prohibits federal Medicaid funding from going to illegal aliens, with the exception of emergency services, recent watchdog reports exposed how federal taxpayers pick up the tab for these state expansions. For instance, California is financing this by implementing a budget gimmick to draw down increased federal funding, placing American taxpayers on the hook for all of this money. This program's a critical lifeline for most Americans, and for many Americans, the most vulnerable Americans, and it's ridiculous, but this is what the Democrats do. This is what they care about. They'd rather your brothers and sisters in arms who are protecting our country, who are securing the border, who are doing essential jobs in America, all have to do it without pay because they'd rather illegal aliens in our country get the benefits. And they're openly changing the laws to make that happen. And they call call that America, which is an insane thing to say. So we got an update from Caroline Leavitt. She had a full press briefing today with the Vice President, J.D. Vance. And here was what she said about why the Democrats are causing this shutdown.
Individuals and organizations across the political spectrum, across the country, agree with the Trump administration and Republicans. The labor union leader, the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, sent a very blunt message to Democrats over their destructive antics. He said American workers are not bargaining chips. Senators need to stop screwing around and pass the House-passed clean short-term funding bill. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest business organization, called to immediately pass the Republican clean CR, saying, quote, shutdowns are harmful to the economy, the American people, and our national security. And even Democrat Senators Cortez Masto and Fetterman acknowledged that their party is betraying the American people with this costly and chaotic Democrat shutdown. Enough is enough. Democrats need to stop sabotaging our country and holding the American people hostage in the country. Democrats need to do their jobs. The American people want the government reopened, and this is proven in a New York Times poll showing that 2 in 3 Americans say the government should not be shut down by the Democrats, even if their absurd demands are not met. The president and Republicans are working very hard to reopen the federal government. The vice president here has been crucial in this effort. We encourage all Americans across the country, call your Democrat senators and encourage them to reopen the government. That's what President Trump and the vice president want to do. And
they say that they're not going to be doing it because apparently they love illegals more than their own constituents. But according to the New York Times, this is the poll that Caroline Leavitt was referencing. And here's what we've got. This guy, his name is Mr. Olivares Rivera. He said his values are closer to the Republican Party, but the deportation policy has me leaning Democratic. Oh, Rivera. He says we're a country in pain and in need, and both sides need to work together. No, they already tried that. They shot us in the neck. But the Democratic base is primed for a fight. More Democratic voters, 47%, said the party should shut down the government. Okay, so they're ornery. They're getting aggressive about it. Should shut down the government if their demands were not met. Then said that they should not shut down the government. But of course, the independents are on the other side of this equation. So all respondents responding here to the question, views on whether the Democrats should or should not shut down the government if their demands are not met to expand Medicaid to once again include illegal aliens. And Democrats say 47% you should shut it down. Almost, the bigger number, not the majority, but the plurality of Democrats. There's a segment in the middle. Gray segment shows voters who did not respond or say, I don't know. And 43% of them say keep it open. So a big portion of them want it shut. Now, on the other hand, 92% of Republicans say you should keep it open. Independents, 59% say keep it open. But in many ways, the latest Times and Siena poll reveals the contradictions that have come to a deeply divided American electorate. And there's another summation on just what is happening here. It's the fact that Chuck Schumer is getting a ton of pressure from the left. They're very agitated about losing everything. They're shooting at ICE detainees. They're shooting conservative influencers, and they're salivating in the aftermath of death and chaos. And now they're getting a bunch of pressure from their side. Chuck Schumer is getting outflanked by AOC and the lefties. And Rapid Response over on X posted this. They said, it has been crystal clear for weeks who is driving the shutdown. It's the left. And look at all these reports. This is pretty interesting. ABC News posted 2 days ago. With pressure on Schumer from the Democratic base, that was from ABC News, Democrats see some potential political advantages to a shutdown, with their base voters spoiling for a fight. Okay, they're losing everything. Yep, this is it. Illegals. We have to fight it. Progressive Democrats are putting party leaders under enormous pressure from Bloomberg. Notice says with pressure on Schumer from the Democratic base. The Hill says Democratic senators, this is becoming a political necessity to fight this. Washington Post says Democrats cowed by criticism from their left flank. AP even says they've got demands from their voters coming in. Business Insider, under pressure. Guardian, under pressure. You get the point. New York Times was reporting that before the shutdown was even coming in. And it goes all the way back to early September. And it's just been escalating. Democrats say, shut it down. We love illegals and we're going to continue to fight for them. Senator Van Hollen's probably packing his bag to go down to Guadalajara or something again. So here's more from J.D. Vance. Now, Sombrero Gate has been taking the world by storm, and many Democrats are just melting down. Here's what J.D. had to say.
Negotiations with these leaders, but what message does that send? Is it helpful to post pictures of Leader Jeffries and a sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' position. politicians and even, poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop. And I've talked to the President of the United States about that. Hakeem Jeffries said it was racist, and I know that he said that, and I honestly don't even know what that means. Like, is he a Mexican American that is offended by having a sombrero meme? I saw one of the major TV stations put the meme up and then say, this is AI generated. And he had like the curly animated mustache too. It's like, do you really not realize the American people recognize that he did not actually come to the White House wearing a sombrero and a black curly animation mustache? Like, give the country a little bit of credit. We're all trying to do a very important job for the American people. The President of the United States likes to have a little bit of fun when he's doing it, and I think that's okay. I'll take one more question.
All right, so amazing. And that is the most perfect, flawless response from JD Vance. You guys are really just kind of pathetic. It's a joke. Have you ever heard of a joke before? Relax. And the CNN and the anchors who put that little bar over AI generated image, they did the same thing for the one with Trump playing the mariachi instruments. Like, people can't get that. And the reason they're doing that is because, man, this hits way too close to home. They're going, oh, dang, we got to make sure voters know that we don't actually think that they hate us, which is, the meme was saying in the first Chuck Schumer video. So it's hysterical. They're just falling into the trolling and they're getting outmaneuvered as per usual. Here is what was happening in the room. Daniel Baldwin was reporting in there over from One American News, chief White House correspondent. What's up, Daniel? And this is what was happening in the White House press briefing room before they got started on loop, saying the White House is playing the Hakeem sombrero meme on repeat in the briefing room. You can hear it. All right, so they're, I'm sure, going to continue to screech and shout about it. The real, policy battle that's happening right now, they don't really want to talk about. So they'd rather just like spring-loaded Pavlov's dogs who are just shoot out of their box anytime that there's anything that they could possibly say is racist or bigoted or homophobic or whatever. They'll do it, and the shutdown will continue, and the sombrero memes will also continue until spending improves. And we're looking forward to keeping our eye on what's coming out. I'm sure there will be more. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we continue to cover the shutdown saga.